This is a short bite episode of Homeschool Together. Hello and welcome to Homeschool Together. Thanks so much for joining us at this short bite edition. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a review, kind of a workbook review,
Sure.
Welcoming Ariel back into the studio for those who are listening on Monday.
Yeah, I know. It was weird. I came home from wrapping our theater production and you were done recording and I was like, but I wanted to hear about tablet-based learning systems. So I had to actually listen to our own podcast to catch up with that because
I'll quiz you later.
Well, yeah, you kind of owned that technology bit. So that's very cool.
But today we're going to be talking about the School Zone Big First Grade Workbook. And this is a 320-page workbook that we have effectively just finished. We have maybe one or two more pages left to go on the reading section, but effectively we are done with it. This is a workbook I think we got at Costco or
I don't remember.
You can get it on Amazon for $6.
I know, it's pretty amazing. Actually, it's one of these big color workbooks that covers lots of different.
Everyone's probably seen them. They're either you can see them at Costco or
there's
you
all
can
these
see them
like
at Walmart.
catch-all like workbooks, that just it covers a bunch of different
There's
subjects.
a huge section at Barnes and Noble, believe it or not, that does a whole
Oh
curriculum.
yeah, Barnes and
Remember the
Noble's
whole
really good for
curriculum
that.
wall that we saw?
Oh yeah,
and you could probably
drool
find
over that.
Yeah, I know you could probably find. I know we have a couple on the shelf there that we're holding back, and we're going to probably use maybe later this year or next year.
Yeah, we haven't gotten
for
those yet.
second grade and then also kindergarten for our younger one. But this is the School Zone Big First Grade book. We just finished it. So basically, you can imagine the book is kind of broken up into two halves. The first half of the book is all your English language, phonics, reading, learning to read short stories. And then the second half is your basic math. So we're talking about place value, addition, subtraction, and then it gets in a little bit of money and time, and then there's some word problems at the end. We were using this as sort of a warm-up activity whenever we would start because we're doing all about reading and our Right Start Math right now. But before I would actually begin those lessons, I would pull out, we call it the yellow book. And then we would pull out the yellow book and I would say, okay, let's do 2 pages. Typically we did 1 or 2 pages on the reading side. So on the reading side, it went a little bit slower. On the math side, because it's we're on Right Start Math level C now.
Yeah, C.
So for my daughter, it was a very easy review on the math. So we just treated it as kind of like an early review, just a light review. So she could do like 4 pages in no time, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just pretty easy to do. So we actually moved through the math section a little bit faster than we did on the reading section because she's more in line with the late first grade reading level than she is with, like, say, a first grade math level. I believe she's more in line with like an early third grade math level than a first grade math level. So she was a little bit more advanced there, but it was nice to do the review. And so we would do these every day. Take us about 10-15 minutes to do.
I think, for the cost of a book like this, even if you're not exactly on the right grade level, like you say, it's a good review. And it's kind of nice for them I find that our daughter does pretty well when she does something she's good at to start the day. Like if the first thing you give her is something really challenging and she's got to sit and struggle with that can really set off the entire day. Oh, yeah. Like you're better off getting those wins earlier so that she's warmed up and she feels like she's made some accomplishments. And then it's like, oh yeah, let's tackle this reading that might be a little bit more challenging.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you think about it, I think we have been doing this book for about 2.5 months now, maybe 60 to 75 kind of school days, weekdays. It didn't take us very long to move through it. It's about 6 pages a day. Sometimes I'd have her do it on the weekends, or if there was like a
she liked doing it. It's it's one of these ones that's just full of full color pages, which is always really engaging to kids. And as much as some kids love workbooks, our daughter pretty much likes workbooks, and some kids don't. It's a very low barrier to entry for this one. $6. If it doesn't work for you, save it for the next kid.
What's really nice too is that it's about just over 300 pages long, and when you're doing the activities, when you're doing other curriculums, you can see there's kind of like the same format that keeps popping up, like an Explode the Code. If if you're out there doing Explode the Code, you may see that same pattern come back over and over again. This is 320 pages, and every page is different. And
that's kind of fun. It jumps to different things.
I really appreciate that because for $6 and to not see the same thing repeat every 5 pages. Because we had a book for sight reading that was like a Scholastic book, And man, like every 4 pages, it was the same thing.
The same formula.
Yeah. And it really felt like after a while, even my daughter could see it's the same thing over and over. And she just kind of get bored with it.
Yeah.
And we actually stopped doing that book because it was just not, engaging. But this, because every single page, every single activity, every single, thing that you do in the book, it's different. And a lot of the pages may actually have multiple things to do on a page, like read a short story and then fill in the blank on something, or do a word search and then, do some concept with the words that you were searching. Really nice thing as well is every new page, there's typically sections. They go in like 4 or 5 page sections, and there's a concept, and they articulate that at the top. And so right now we're towards the end of it. We're doing kind of different types of grammar. So we're learning about nouns and verbs and adjectives, and we're in the adjectives pages. And so up at the top, it says adjectives. And so like, I know, okay, this is something that we're doing adjectives. And so I explain that. I kind of give like a little intro again. Hey, do you remember what an adjective is? And blah, blah, blah. Totally gets it. And then I can review going forward on like, okay, remember we talked about nouns, we talked about verbs, now we're doing adjectives. So they give you the kind of header on what that activity is. Nice little description right up at the top. There's been some workbooks that we've had that haven't had very good descriptions on like what you're supposed to do. These have very good descriptions, very clear, nice blocky formatting. At the beginning of the book, there was not the expectation that your child would be reading the sentences, but by the end of, say, the English language section, about 170 pages worth of the book, by the end of that, the expectation is they are reading the sentences and filling in the blanks, or, reading the sentence and doing the indicated action, whatever that might be. So, at the beginning, it was kind of a phonics thing, and then there's the expectation that at the end, you're going to be reading short stories, 6 or 7 line short stories. And then, reading sentences and doing fill in the blanks, or reading a sentence for comprehension from what you read, and then doing that activity. Really, really nice. And I had to kind of like force her to start to do that activity, because a lot of times I will read things for her so that she can do the activity. And I've got to start to remind myself now that she's got to start to read those things for herself and then solve the problem or solve the action. It does not indicate if it's like Common Core aligned or if it's like some type of learning standard, but it does cover an immense amount of topics. So I from my standpoint, I don't know if it's Common Core aligned, but for me, the reason why we got this book and the thing that I wanted to do was I just wanted to, as like kind of a soft evaluation of grade level.
I think that's a really good way to use it.
Because I know we don't really care too much about grade levels, but I kind of care about like, okay, where is she in relation to everybody else, right?
Yeah.
And is she kind of progressing at the right speed? And she is. And I'm not worried about that. And using this book as kind of a soft assessment or a soft evaluation. It's a good way
to pull out things too that maybe you haven't covered in another part, and you're like, oh gosh, I didn't even think about this section. I'm going to go ahead and cover that, or maybe we need to put some more work into money, or whatever it is.
Well, like for us, this will be the 8th time we hit money, and it was finally fun because she was starting to actually understand money and start to do it, and so it was fun to see her start to be able to do the math and be able to do that stuff and figure out change and everything. So that was cool. And then time, for like the 7th time or 6th time we hit time, and she was starting to understand it. And it was nice to see her finally starting to get some of those like edge concepts that she was struggling with.
It's good to revisit these, and it's good to do them in a fun way. These workbooks are so cheap too that
you could just take it with you anywhere.
Yeah, you could definitely. They're great on the go if you have practice with an older sibling or something.
A couple times I think we sent this to grandparents and just said, hey,
do a few pages.
One thing that I noticed is if, every day you want to do a little bit of reading pages and a little bit of math pages, really helpful to have 2 bookmarks. Because it's hard to find where you are.
Oh yeah, because the whole first half is English, the whole second half is math.
Second math is math, and so I found having 2 bookmarks was a nice thing to just kind of do, so you can just open straight to that page. Otherwise you're just.
I think what's nice about these simple workbooks, they're not full curriculums. We wouldn't use them as such. No. We wouldn't recommend using them that way, but they're really great to.
It's funny though. I've seen some moms at our parent partnership using that book right over there on the shelf.
Oh yeah, well that's a complete curriculum.
They call that a complete curriculum.
We haven't done that one yet. Yeah. We'll get to that, guys, when we do it. But what I like about these is the barrier to entry is so low. You can get them if your kid's not digging it. You can switch it out. If you want to have a few workbooks and just rotate them to keep it always extra fresh, I love that they just give you an extra fun, also, playful source.
If you're not a all year round homeschooler and in the summer you want to just kind of keep it fresh and loose, but you don't really want to do a big curriculum, you kind of end your math and reading curriculums at the end of the year. Doing something like this in the summer would be really kind of cool, especially if you're using it as a review. So it's low stakes, low effort. They just do a couple pages every day. You can easily through a summer in like 90 days knock out 5 pages a day, two
even more. I mean, that's where we have a whole section of these type of workbooks, and the one that's a complete curriculum. I got them at Costco over the summer because I was like, they had them all out. I'm like, we should try all of these. Yeah. I mean, why not?
Why not?
So this one's really good. So it's $6. We've got a link in the show notes if you want to pick it up, and you can help support our lovely podcast here. We appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's the School Zone. They also have an online thing, but we didn't do it.
Yeah, we only did the book.
We only did the book. So it's the School Zone Big First Grade Workbook.
Thanks so much for joining us today and making us a part of your homeschool journey. Please engage with us on social media. Join our Homeschool Together podcast group on Facebook and find us at Homeschool Together Podcast on Instagram. We'd love to hear your feedback, questions, and recommendations. Until next time,
happy homeschooling!